Today, without wasting any time, we are diving directly into the Amazon Kindle Paperwhite 5 Signature Edition versus the Pocketbook Era. So the Pocketbook will be on the left and the Kindle on the right. The Era is 7 inches with a resolution of 1680 by 1264 with an e-ink Carta 1200 screen and 300 ppi. The Paperwhite as well is using a Carta 1200 display, however scales back both the screen size and resolution to a 6.8 inch screen with 1648 by 1236, but as well has 300 ppi. Storage is also different as well, with the Signature Edition being a 32GB variant only, whereas the Pocketbook has either ends of the spectrum at 16 and 64, the 16GB being $199 and the 64 being $239. The Kindle is $189 with no options other than sacrificing all that makes the Signature Edition signature and going down to the more basic entry-level Paperwhite. They both have something that makes them stand out, with the Pocketbook having onboard audio and the Signature Edition being the first e-reader ever with built-in wireless charging. We know a lot of you are going to be questioning why we're pitting up the Kindle Paperwhite 5 against the Era, and that is because we can't put the Oasis up against the Era. The Oasis, the one in question, the Oasis 3, was basically the Oasis 2 with a fresh coat of paint, which was made in 2018, which was 4 years ago. It is not too relevant at this point, as these two are the absolute latest releases from both respective companies. Amazon has no buttons whatsoever. They've gotten rid of buttons for a long time now since the Oasis and the Voyage, with those haptic feedback side buttons, which was really cool, we believe. The Pocketbook has always kind of had buttons either on the bottom or on the side. You have a couple buttons in the middle for page turns, and you have a home button and a power button on either side. The home screens are laid out very differently. They both have that little drop-down menu if you click it or swipe it, and you get a decent amount of features on both. You will see Bluetooth on this if you're in a certain region, but the current region we're doing a review from does not have Bluetooth. They both have glow lights, which we'll show you in a little bit. You have some notifications here. You have Wi-Fi, dark mode, flight mode, kind of just giving you the quick key accesses to either the most important things or the things you're just going to be pressing the most. You can see that both of these, because they're e-readers, they're not very fast. None of that was very fast of what we did. You clicked on something, they both took their own respective time. Speaking of time, you can change the time on both of these and the display options on both of these, like timeouts. You can go to do updates, you can sign into your account. Everything can be accessed from the back-end settings. On the Pocketbook, you can press the home button. On the Kindle, you can't. You're always going to have to look on the UI elements for either an X or a home or a back somewhere. Or you can press the top down, in which case sometimes it will give you access to go back home. In this case, you actually have to press the X. So you always have to kind of look software-wise to see how you're going to go back and how you're going to navigate versus the physical buttons, left, right, up, down, whatever app you're going to be using, and the home button, of course. You get your library down below right here. By pressing library, you can press library on the Pocketbook as well. Both of them are identical in this regard, except on the Era, you can actually go to folders and browse the internal storage. And this is a little bit more flexible because you can browse pictures, you can browse music, notes, photos, and just things in the root of your device. Whereas Amazon is more catered towards, is there a book on here, yes or no? If no, I'm not going to show it. If yes, I'll show it, like the baseball PDF we have right here, which we'll show you in a second. So the Pocketbook is a little bit more customizable in that regard, that you can actually put things on here, side-loaded from your PC, a lot easier. Outside of the library, this doesn't have anything else. There's home and library and what you're reading. On the Pocketbook, if you check the video card up above, you'll see that it is extensive. You have audiobooks, you have the store experience. We'll show you the store up against this in a second. You have notes via the notes section or Scribble, where you can actually take individual notes on here using a stylus or your finger with multiple different colors, multiple different fonts. You can add line spacings. There's a lot you can do with it. You also have some apps like Photo Frame, Music Player, Browser, Calculator, Calendar. You have Dropbox integration, Pocketbook Cloud, and some games. So in terms of pitting them up against each other from a multimedia standpoint, the Kindle just pales in comparison. I mean, there's nothing it can do outside of just reading books, whereas the Pocketbook, even though it's not a tablet with an e-paper screen like an Onyx or a BIGME, they do hold their own kind of personality by having a lot of things you can do. If you're bored, you can play Klondike, chess, and Sudoku. You can't do any of that on the Kindle. However, don't think the Pocketbook is too customizable because you can't use any other app other than the basic reading app, which doesn't really have a name, it's just every time you open a book, here it is. So page turns are virtually identical, although recently in the Signature Edition update, you get this little swipe page turn animation, which is kind of cool. It just gives it some personality. The Kobo does not have such a thing, although you cannot fast nav on here because pressing something would just simply long press. You actually can fast nav on the Era by pages of 10. You'll see here if you press and hold the physical page turn buttons, it'll go down 50, 40, 30, 20, etc. So that's really cool that you're able to do that and speed through the book. If you long press on something, you get highlights and notes and search on Google and search in dictionary. So in that regard, it is the same. Although on the Kindle, they take it a step further. You can swipe a whole bunch of area, click here, and then you can translate. And this instantly allows you to translate from any language to any language you see on the drop-down menu at the click of a button.
State of stupefaction denied himself a last embrace, though the effort wrung his heart, rather than awaken her to her misery. He quitted the cell and the chaplain, quietly placing Ellen in the arms of Adams.
As the Pocketbook has onboard audio, you can do TTS, text-to-speech, and audiobooks right out of the gates. You don't have to use any dongles, you don't have to use any Bluetooth connectivity, although Amazon does have audiobooks. In fact, they have Audible, of course, on the device. You can't actually use it without connecting wireless hardware. You need wireless headphones, wireless speakers, etc., because it has no way to actually give you that audio experience. There's no speakers on board, so they can't really be compared in that sense because the quality is only going to be as good as the things you're using on here. In terms of PDFs, we don't recommend PDFs on either of these. Why is that? Because they're just too small. Using PDFs on small devices and showing them off is just a pleasantry to show that you can do it, not that you should do it. You actually can take scribbles and notes on here, as we've shown you before in the review video, and you can see on the actual device itself. You can do underlines and long presses. You can do long presses on both of these as well, but there is no real reason to grab this for PDFs if you're using it for anything outside of your expertise. For example, if you're using this for your medical education or your educational institution, don't do that, because everything's going to be scaled down to the point where you can't even read it without pinching and zooming. You can do some things like reflow and stuff like that, but it's just not going to be as good as a 13.3, as a 10.3. It's just never going to be that good. For example, the Pocketbook doesn't even have a mini-map, so you don't even know where you are, whereas the Kindle does have a mini-map, but it can't handle PDFs that well. As you can see, it just hung right there. So neither of these excel at PDFs specifically in any direction. Your experience may vary on the Amazon because it is a regional device, meaning because we're doing this from our GOODEREADER Japan office, it's accessing the Japan store from Amazon. The Pocketbook will not do that. It will only ever access the one store. On the Amazon, you just get books, you get manga, all that kind of stuff, editorials. On the Pocketbook, you get a toggle between books and editorials and everything, and the audiobooks selection as well, without having to navigate outside of the store itself. You don't have to go to an audiobook store because everything is located within the one store experience. In terms of the glow light, the Amazon is less blue. You will see right here versus the Era being quite blue. There's a huge tinge of blue in here. But you don't have to worry about that because you have smart lights on both of these, which means you can adjust the warm light. And now they're identical. Pocketbook and Amazon both released their first e-reader around 2007. Although neither of these two companies were the first to create e-readers, they have both pioneered functionalities and features along their 15-year career in the industry. There is no clear winner, as this wasn't a competition to see which one is better, but rather what these two companies bring to the table. The Pocketbook is more packed with features and is more of an all-in-one experience, whereas the Amazon is more basic when pitted up against the Era. Let us know what you guys think below, and for another comparison, this is GOODEREADER.com.